Thomas and Emily pulled up to the smelting shed. They gasped at the ghostly shadows and fizzing sparks. Their wheels felt as if they were frozen, but they had to go inside. "I hope the ghost hasn't gone in there," quaked Thomas. "Me too," quivered Emily. And they both rolled slowly into the smelting shed. Inside, chains clanked and strange shadows danced across the walls. Must be brave, Thomas puffed. But it was spooky. Emily was turning around, ready to shun some freight cars. Suddenly, a great whoosh of sparks lit up the shed. "Bust my buffers!" cried Emily. Emily was scared. She didn't notice the huge white tarp. It fell, covering her from funnel to footplate. "The ghost! It's got me!" She steamed away as fast as her pistons could pump. Thomas thought Emily was the ghost, and he raced out of the smelting shed. "The ghost is after me!" cried Thomas. Harry and Bert thought Emily was the ghost too, and they raced away. Thomas was right behind them, and Emily was right behind Thomas. "Help!" Emily cried. "The ghost has got me!" Harry, Bert, Thomas, and Emily raced towards Tidmouth Sheds. Tidmouth Sheds was quiet and peaceful. All the engines were fast asleep. Thomas's whistle soon woke them up. "It's Thomas!" cried Percy. "Something must be wrong." Suddenly, he saw Thomas, Harry, and Bert racing into the yards. "Stop!" he cried. Harry, Bert, and Thomas applied their brakes. They stopped just in time. "The ghost is after us!" whistled Thomas. Percy was scared. But just then, Emily raced under a signal and the tarp flew off. "That's no ghost," said Percy. "That's Emily." The engines didn't feel scared anymore, but they did feel foolish. Sir Topham Hatt arrived wearing his pajamas. "What is all this fuss and bother?" he boomed. "It has caused confusion and delay." "But, sir," cried Thomas, "the flatbeds were rattling." "And we heard moaning," said Emily. "And groaning," added Thomas. Sir Topham Hatt looked at Harry and Bert. "Do you know anything about this?" he asked sternly. "It was us, sir," Bert mumbled. "For your punishment, you go back and collect the iron at once," said Sir Topham Hatt. "Yes, sir," said Harry and Bert, and they rumbled away. Whenever Thomas and Emily went back to the smelter's yard, they knew there was nothing to be scared of. After all, there is no such thing as ghosts. It was all silly make-believe. Every engine on the island of Sodor looks different. Can you tell who this is? This engine is dark green. It's only got a small roof on the cab. But it's got a very tall funnel. Do you know who it is yet? Here's another clue. This engine's got very big wheels. There's only one engine on Sodor who has wheels like that. Do you know who it is? Yes, it's Emily. Hello, Emily. Rusty repairs the railway that winds through the mountains on the island of Sodor. The little diesel checks that the tracks, tunnels, and bridges are all in good working order. One day, Rusty was crossing the old wooden bridge. There was a big bump in the track. Rusty's driver stopped to check the bridge. "There are cracks in the supports," he said.
"Ooh, that could be dangerous," cried Rusty. "It might fall down if it's not repaired."
And they hurried off to warn the other engines. The engines were waiting for their coal when Rusty arrived.
"Don't use the old wooden bridge,"
said Rusty.
"It's dangerous."
"How would you know?" wished Duncan. "You're only a diesel." And he puffed crossly away. He didn't even wait for his coal. Rusty hurried down the mountain to tell Sir Topham Hatt the bad news. "Thank you," said Sir Topham Hatt. "I'll send engineers to investigate the bridge. Meanwhile, nobody is to use it." Rusty's driver put up a sign, "Line closed." The engines had to travel a different way. Meanwhile, Duncan needed more coal to get home. But when he arrived at the coal bunker, it was empty. "Bother, I won't get home without more coal. Where's the nearest bunker?" "On the other side of the old wooden bridge. But you can't cross. Rusty says it's not safe."
Rusty always makes things sound worse than they are. "I'm sure one trip across the old wooden bridge won't hurt,"
added his driver. When they got to the junction, Duncan's driver removed the sign, and they set off towards the bridge. This was a big mistake. Suddenly, Duncan hissed to a halt. "I'm out of steam." He had used up all his coal. "What's that?" he asked nervously. His driver looked out. The old wooden bridge was starting to collapse. "Rusty," called Skarloey. "Duncan's gone across the bridge."
"I'd better check he's all right,"
the little diesel said. But the cracks in the supports were getting larger. A beam snapped. Timber pieces splashed into the water below. "Help!" whistled Duncan. "I'm going to fall!" But Rusty was on the way. Soon the little diesel reached the old wooden bridge. Duncan had never looked so scared. Rusty chuffed bravely onto the bridge. "Careful!" gasped Duncan. Soon they were coupled up.
"Hold on,"
said Rusty.
"Woo!"
shouted Duncan. The little diesel pulled him off the bridge, just in time.
"Don't use the old wooden bridge,"
said Rusty.
"It's dangerous."
Sir Topham Hatt was cross with Duncan. "That was very irresponsible."
"Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. And Rusty, you were very brave." "Oh, thanks."
"Yes, Rusty, you are a really useful engine."
"Thank you, sir."
Rusty felt very reliable, too. It's a beautiful day on the island of Sodor. Percy has been chosen to take some children to the seaside. But Percy feels nervous. It's a very special job. Percy wants the children to have a wonderful day. What can Percy do to make himself feel better?
Percy can fill his water tanks at the water tower. Then Percy knows he can make lots of steam and keep his engine nice and cool all day. But what can Percy do next to make himself feel good? Percy can have a lovely long washdown. Percy loves being clean and shiny. Now Percy looks his very best. What can Percy do next to feel good about his trip? Percy can make sure his tender is full of coal. Percy looks his best and is ready to go. Percy can steam ahead and know he'll arrive safely and on time. So what did Percy do? First, Percy filled his tanks with water at the water tower. Then, Percy had a really good wash. Finally, he made sure his tender was full of coal. Now Percy feels like a really useful engine. And he is ready to collect the children. Have a nice day at the seaside, Percy. Toby is a steam tram. He looks very different from the other engines. He is square and his body is made of wood. Toby is not as strong as the other engines, but he always tries his hardest. One morning, Toby was delivering some freight cars of milk. He puffed across the island and up Gordon's Hill. Gordon's Hill was very steep. Toby puffed hard. It was a long climb. Just then, Gordon arrived at the bottom of the hill. But today, the express was heavy, and Gordon had to wait for Edward to help. "Bother," huffed Gordon. Soon, Edward puffed to the rescue. He buffered up behind Gordon. Edward pushed, and Gordon pulled. At last, the express train started to move. Toby had finally reached the top of the hill when Gordon puffed past. "Slow coach," Gordon huffed. "I'm trying my hardest," gasped Toby. "Pah!" sniffed Gordon. "You're not even a proper engine." This made Toby feel very sad. That night, Sir Topham Hatt came to see Toby. "Edward is needed at the docks," Sir Topham Hatt said. "You ought to work at Wellsworth Yard in his place." "But I'll never be able to do Edward's job," Toby cried. "He's a proper steam engine." "Nonsense," said Sir Topham Hatt. "You are one of my engines, and you must be useful." Toby was very worried. What if he wasn't useful? The next morning, Toby puffed nervously out of his shed. "I hope no one needs pushing up Gordon's Hill," puffed Toby. Toby wished he was a proper steam engine. At last, Toby arrived at Wellsworth Yard. There were lots of freight cars, and they looked very heavy.